Thank you all for tuning in to WJT 98.3 FM, your voice and music, your station. My name is Jeff Badu, and I'm a parallel entrepreneur and a wealth multiplier. I'm the founder and CEO of Badu Enterprises, LLC, which is a multinational conglomerate in the finance industry. Welcome to the show, Money Talks, where all we talk is money. And today we'll be talking about basically how to set your business up for success. I mean, there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there, aspiring entrepreneurs, that unfortunately don't have their business set up correctly, or they're exposing themselves to far too much liability and they're not protecting themselves. So today we're here to talk about how to set your business up for success from a legal standpoint, first and foremost, and then also from a tax standpoint. So those are the main topics covered today. For those that don't know, we're here every Monday night from 7 to 8 p.m. Central. If you would like to contribute, basically just any comments, questions, or anything, you can either call into the studio line 773-942-7167, 773-942-7167. We're also streaming live on Facebook and Instagram, so you can feel free to post your questions there or your comments in the chat box. But if you would like to call into the studio, you can call in 773-942-7167. We are a 501c3 not-for-profit organization, so you can feel free to make all your contributions and donations at wghcfm.com. So before we go into the main topic today, and we'll spend about 45 minutes today. I actually have a training session that's right after this, so we do need to be sharp on the time. We'll go through a market report right before the July 4th holiday, July 3rd, 2020. Domestic stocks surged last Monday as a robust pending home sales report overshadowed an increase in COVID-19 cases. So, as you all may be aware, states such as Florida, Texas are experiencing extreme spikes in COVID-19 cases. However, the stock market didn't pull back because of the fact that pending home sales reports overshadowed that news. As of now, we're basically used to COVID-19 cases being high. So that's why investors didn't really panic too much. It's mainly because the pending home sales report overshadowed the COVID-19 increase in cases. Pending sales of existing homes soared over 44% in May, a record-setting rate that should lead to gains in existing home sales. So this is great news for the housing market, meaning that existing home sales were up 44% in the month of May. It's awesome news. That means that the economy is still moving, right? We're not slowing down. It means real estate is still something to be in, and you see the activity going on. At first, it was pretty ugly. I mean, I experienced it myself personally. But now you see that things are toning down a bit, although some of these states are about to shut down again, which might lead to the sales plummeting again. A jump in Boeing stock helped propel the S&P 500, which virtually wiped out its June losses. The small caps of the Russell 2000 climbed more than 3%, followed by the Dow, the S&P 500, and the NASDAQ. And then, of course, the global Dow. Crude oil prices gained nearly 3%, while bond yields were unchanged. Equities closed what proved to be a volatile June on a high note. So June was very volatile, at least in the equity markets, aka the stock market. The Dow ended Tuesday up 0.9%, the S&P 500 gained 1.5%, and the global Dow rose 0.8%. But the big winners were the Russell 2000 up 1.4%, and the NASDAQ, which climbed as usual. We've seen a trend. Technology stocks, which are NASDAQ, climbed 1.9%. Investors pushed stocks higher despite sobering news related to, of course, the ongoing battle against COVID-19. For those that don't know, we're in a global pandemic right now where COVID-19 cases are going up in certain places like Texas and Florida. Something to be very cautious of. It's not like we can be out there free without masks or anything like that. Please be careful. I have heard some very disturbing news about certain things that certain people are doing nowadays, and I'm like, you might want to be careful a little bit, because this thing is dangerous, and it's here. It's not a fluke. I mean, some of the numbers may be made up, but I know for a fact that the virus exists because I have friends, I have a few family members that initially were, got the virus, recovered from it. So I know it's real, so it's nothing to downplay by a long shot. This thing is real, and this thing is actually impacting people. Top government health advisor, Dr. Anthony Fauci, cautioned that a COVID-19 vaccine remains uncertain. Also, Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell, during testimony before the House Committee on Financial Services, stated that while economic activity or data is showing some positive signs, economic growth remains extraordinarily uncertain, so meaning that we don't know what's going to happen, and will depend in large part on success in containing the virus. So basically, if you don't stay home, then that means this economic downturn is going to last for a long time. So what they're saying is, please try to stay home. If you don't have to meet in person, if you don't have to do something in person, then try to do it virtually. If you can print something as opposed to dropping it off somewhere in person, then please do so. If you can sign something electronically instead of having to go somewhere to physically sign it, then please do so. I know this is a financial talk. This is money talks, but we need to talk about the health as well, because the health ties directly with the wealth. Without the health, we can't have any wealth, right? So it's very important that we're safe, that we're basically doing what we have to do. We're making smart decisions as it relates to this COVID-19 virus, because we know it's real and we know that it is impacting people. So I would hate for anybody to contract the virus unnecessarily or just in a way where you put yourself at risk when you could have been protecting yourself. I mean, me personally, to be quite frank, I was at home watching movies all 4th of July weekend. It's not the ideal thing to do, but my ideal thing is to stay safe and healthy, right? I would much rather do that, watch my movies. I mean, I enjoyed tons of movies this weekend, finished a show that I was watching. And honestly, that felt good, spending that me time, of course, with my fiance and all that good stuff. But sometimes we just need to sacrifice in order to get where we need to be. If people are going outside, going to the beaches every day like this, at this rate, we won't be back to quote-unquote normal anytime soon. What this does is it hurts the economy. It means that companies have to lay people off because there's nobody that wants to come in. Perhaps a restaurant, a barbershop. I mean, the more cases are going up, the more people get scared, and the less businesses can produce. The less they can produce, the less they can hire people. The less they can hire, the more layoffs, and ultimately, that's bad news for everybody. Nobody wins when the economy is down, trust me. All right, so that is something to keep in mind, and that this is impacting everybody. Some industries do thrive in this time, like technology, but at the same time, even those industries rely on people in order to sustain, or in order to thrive, essentially. So let's talk about Wednesday, which produced a mixed bag for stocks. The NASDAQ Global Dow and the S&P 500 posted gains, while the Dow and the Russell 2000 lost value. Crude oil prices advanced while treasuries and the dollar fell. Early in the day, stocks climbed on news that preliminary tests of a COVID-19 vaccine, hint, hint, developed by Pfizer and BioNTech were favorable. So basically, Pfizer and BioNTech came out with a potential vaccine. But however, the stock gains were short-lived following reports that both California, which is another state that's in the red zone, and Arizona had their biggest daily increases in virus cases. And last time I checked, California was shut down, but apparently not, because they just had their biggest daily increases in COVID-19 virus cases. June's employment figures far surpassed expectations, with more than 4.8 million new jobs added, so that's good news, giving investors another sign that the economy is picking up steam. But remember, as these COVID-19 cases go up, those might go down unless these companies are truly adapting to this tech-friendly environment that we live in today. Heading into the 4th of July weekend, the major markets were closed last Friday. So because of the 4th of July weekend, the stock market was closed last Friday, as were a lot of other places, in observance of the holiday. Nevertheless, each of the benchmark indexes enjoyed solid weekly returns. The NASDAQ once again led the way, gaining over 4.6%, followed by the S&P 500, which closed up more than 4%. Treasury yields remain steady, while crude oil prices gained and the dollar fell slightly. So as we can see, technology is here. Remember, I keep telling you guys, get into some tech stocks. It is a must if you truly want to thrive in the stock market, or if you want to be one of those buy and hold investors. One of the places to be is tech, right? Even Warren Buffett was convinced to buy tech when he bought Apple. So that is something to keep in mind. Tech is here to stay. Warren Buffett dumped every single airline stock this year. The moment the pandemic was declared, he dumped every single airline stock. And there was news today that he actually bought some oil stock, about $4 billion into an oil company or oil stock. He doesn't buy stocks, by the way. He buys companies. That's one big misconception that a lot of people make, is that they think Warren Buffett buys stocks. He doesn't buy stock. He buys the company themselves. So it's more, you might see it as a stock, but he's actually buying either the entire company or a part of the company. So that's something to keep in mind. And there was another thing too on here, another thing to note, and basically is that, the jobs market are growing as it was shown in the June report, but ultimately it's still looking pretty scary out there for the jobs market. I mean, people are filing unemployment left and right. It's crazy. But nonetheless, crude oil prices rebounded last week from $38.10 per barrel to $40.32 per barrel. Price of COMEX gold went up. Let's see. Just make sure I have the number right. It went up $17.84.10 to $17.87.60. So not too much. So far this year, the Dow Jones is down 9.50%. The NASDAQ, love the NASDAQ, filled with technology stocks, is up 13.76%. So while the world is tanking, the NASDAQ is up 13.76%. S&P 500 is down 3.12%. The Russell 2000 is down 14.18%. So as you can see, small businesses are getting really hurt right now. Global Dow is down 11.97%, which lets you know that the global markets are also doing pretty bad. Federal funds target rate is at a mere 0% to 0.25%. 10-year treasuries are at 0.66%. That is very terrible, by the way. About this week, today the stock market went up big time. In a very big way, the stock market went up, so that's good news. Maybe the 4th of July, they had some sales. Something happened during the 4th of July weekend that allowed the stock market to go up, even though COVID-19 cases actually went up this past weekend. But this week, the end of the week offers a glimpse at inflationary trends with the latest information on producer prices. Also this week, the June Treasury budget report. Government spending has been up and income has been down, primarily due to the pandemic. So those are a few things that are to be looked out for this week. So let's spend just about 25 minutes or so talking about this topic on small businesses, how to set yourself up for success. I call this untouchable, setting your business up for success. How do you remain untouchable? How do you treat yourself like an apple? How do you take your business really, really seriously and not run it like a one-man shop or a mom and pop shop? So today we're talking about setting your business up for success. It is a very important segment that any current and or aspiring business owner needs to pay attention to. It is very important. So ultimately, a lot of us have business aspirations. A lot of people want to be business owners. But the thing that they don't tell you, or the thing you may have not learned, is that running a business is more than just selling a product or service. There's a lot of fine print fine details that you need to pay attention to in order to truly be in business. Because if you don't have some of these things in place, then you'll be called what's called a hobby, not a business. A business is something that has a legal entity, a legal structure behind it, such as an LLC or an INC. We'll talk about that in a second. A business is not a sole proprietorship. That's what I call a hobby. A business, a true business, is one that is generating revenue. It is one that's keeping track of its books and records on at least a monthly basis. It is one that stays compliant with tax laws and regulations, such as the IRS, when you're filing your taxes every year. And it is one that is positioned for success. It is not a hobby where, let's say you are in the cosmetology space, you're doing hair for people, and you're just doing things in your personal name. That's not a business, quite frankly. That's a sole proprietorship. That's a freelancer. And notice how they use the term freelancer. Somebody who's free. They're just freelancing. A business, somebody who's truly in business, is one that has legal entities set up. That's what you call a business. And I understand starting out, you might not think of yourself as a business. But if you want people to take you serious, if you truly want to live the American dream of owning a business and owning real estate, then you need to make sure you set yourself up for success the right way. Do it the smart way. Because I'll be the first to tell you, I've been sued before in business. Thankfully, I had my LLCs, I had my land trusts and things of that nature to protect me during those lawsuits. Now, thankfully, I've never lost a lawsuit, but I've been sued before, right? And had I lost those lawsuits, I could have lost everything that I work hard for. The entire Badu Enterprises brand could have been in jeopardy had I lost a lawsuit, right? So you don't want that for you nor your family. So all you have to do is spend a few $100, a few $100 to get yourself up for success. In some states, it's not even $100. It's as little as $50, right? So we can't let this cost of doing business deter us from running a business. Remember, first rule, if you don't have an LLC or an INC set up, you don't have a business, you have what's called a hobby. And that's just being real, that's being honest, that's being sincere, and that's just keeping it real. So ultimately, there's two major legal entity types. There's only really two. Now, within those two, there's sub-branches of them, but there's really only two. At least two that's taken seriously. It is the LLC, the limited liability company, and the corporation. Those are the only two entities that are legally recognized as legal entities. Now, there are sole proprietorships, which, remember, we won't be talking about that today because I personally don't. It's not that I don't take sole proprietorship serious, but I can't consider a sole proprietorship a business, like a true business. So one of my criteria for working with somebody, let's say a contractor, a management company, a real estate agent, is they must have some sort of legal entity in place. Because I'm not comfortable enough working with somebody who's not in business, meaning that they don't have a legal entity set up of some sort. I just don't feel comfortable, right? Because I know what happens. What happens when your management company gets sued and they lose everything? Right now, you don't have a management company. You just have the building and yourself. So let's cover the two main. Today we'll focus on two main entity types, or the two only entity types, really. And the first one is the limited liability company, or the LLC for short. So by far, my favorite type of entity is the LLC, the limited liability company. What an LLC does is it protects your personal assets, meaning that if you set up an LLC and you start doing business, if somebody were to sue you, they cannot take what you own personally, as long as you were doing things in the business name, or in other words, you were not doing what's called piercing the corporate veil. So as long as you've been doing that, then you're good. You're pretty much good when it comes to the LLC. And also with the LLC, it's very low maintenance. It's very cheap. As low as some states $50, and some states may charge a little bit more, but it's well worth the cost. It's very low maintenance. You don't have to do a whole lot of fancy stuff. all you need is articles of organization, a tax ID number, a business bank account, and maybe an operating agreement. It's good to have that. If you have those 4 things, you'll be good, rock solid. Unlike a corporation where you have to keep a bit more stuff than that. So I like the LLC because ultimately it's low maintenance and it's very low cost. And then another reason why I like the LLC, it's flexible. This is where it gets a bit complicated. But basically, you get to choose how you want to be taxed. You can be taxed as a sole proprietorship, where you may incur the self-employment tax, the extra 15%, or the FICA, self-employment. You can be taxed as a partnership, which is basically 2 or more people. Or you get to be taxed as an S corporation or a C corporation. And if you're running an active business, meaning a law firm, an accounting firm, or retail company, you should strongly consider being taxed as an S corporation because you get to avoid that 15.6%, the FICA tax. So if you're taxed as a sole proprietorship, if your tax return has a Schedule C or your 1065 partnership, then you will have to face the FICA tax. If you want to get rid of the FICA tax, this is a huge tax planning tip. We literally charge clients thousands of dollars to give them this tip right here. Is you get to elect to be taxed as an S corporation, which allows you to avoid the FICA. So that's one reason why you might see somebody set up as an LLC taxed as an S corporation or a standalone S corporation. In other words, a C corporation that elected to be taxed as an S corporation. So as you can tell, an S corporation is not an actual legal entity. It is just a tax structure. So that is one thing to keep in mind. Now with real estate, we don't have to do the whole S corp thing because of the fact that real estate, meaning passive real estate, so rental properties, you don't have to do the whole S corp election because rentals are not considered active income, meaning there's no FICA or self-employment tax on that. So LLC, and then also one more thing is people tend to take it more serious, so you get added credibility when you have an LLC. All my companies to this day are LLCs except for one, which is the Badu Foundation, which is set up as a C corporation, which is about to be a 501c3 nonprofit, because in order to become a 501c3 nonprofit, you have to be a C corporation first. But LLC I love because it protects your personal assets. It's very low cost and low maintenance. You get flexibility to choose how you want to be taxed. And then it gives you added credibility. For those 4 reasons, I love LLCs. Now let's talk about a corporation. So every corporation starts off as a C corporation. With the C corporation, you still get asset protection. You still get added credibility. But unfortunately, 2 downfalls is that, 1, it's high maintenance. You have to have bylaws, stockholder certificate, board meetings, which you can take them in Vegas, Cancun, wherever you decide to go. Mine was in Jamaica last year, by the way. But you get to take nice fancy trips called board meetings when you have a business. Remember, to take yourself serious and be a true business, you have to have a business entity. You can't take these nice fancy trips and write them off if you're just a standalone sole proprietorship. I mean, you can, but you can't. I always like to tell people that. But ultimately, the biggest downfall of a C corporation is double taxation. Meaning that not only will you get taxed on your profit, so let's say you made $100,000 profit, you'll be taxed on that at the C corporation tax rate. It's about 21%. And then you also have to pay taxes when you distribute money to yourself, known as a dividend tax, basically, which is about 0 to 20%. So for those reasons, to me, that kind of sucks, that I basically get taxed twice. This is what you call double taxation. So for those reasons, I don't like C corporations. You should only set up a C corporation if you're planning to go public, like a Microsoft, an Apple, or a nonprofit. So if you want to go public, then you have to become a C corporation. So that is one thing to keep in mind. Public companies, corporations. So the better entity choice is an S corporation, or the better tax structure is an S corporation. S corporation is simply a C corporation that elects to be taxed as an S corporation. It's basically a tax code, a subchapter S tax code, basically. So ultimately, all C corps are allowed to become taxed as an S corp unless you don't meet the requirements of an S corp, such as a public company. So with the S corp, it still gives you added credibility. It gives you asset protection. It is high maintenance, but there's no double taxation, and you get to avoid the FICA tax. Meaning that when you distribute money to yourself in the form of a dividend, you don't have to pay taxes on that money again. So that's something important to keep in mind as it relates to taxes. So that's one thing that I really like about these entity structures, is that you really get to take yourself seriously, and people get to take you serious when you're running a business. If you're running an active business, meaning one where you're actively involved in the day-to-day operations, then it's definitely an LLC taxed as an S corporation or a standalone S corp. My preference is S corporation. I'm sorry, LLC taxed as an S corporation. And then if it's real estate or passive income, then you can do the LLC, the standalone LLC tax as a sole proprietorship or partnership. If you're a married couple, then you would do you would do LLC tax as a partnership for your passive income. So ultimately, that's a few things you need to know about business entity structures. There's only really two types. There is the LLC, limited liability company, and then the corporation, or corp for short. So it's very important to protect yourself, protect your personal assets. I'm somebody who personally, let me be an example. I'm somebody who's been sued before in my life. And I tell you that I felt much more comfortable during that lawsuit when I had my LLC. And just to give you guys a little bit of insight as to how that lawsuit came about, I run a car rental business, or a car rental company. Unfortunately, one of my renters hit somebody, right? They hit a pedestrian. Thankfully, there was insurance on the car. But, of course, the pedestrian got a little greedy and tried to come after me personally. Little did they know that the car was in an LLC that was protecting me personally. And as a double or triple whammy, the LLC didn't own anything but the car, which had a loan on it. Meaning that even had they won the lawsuit, now they lost the lawsuit because they couldn't tie me to the liability. They tied the renter to the liability because the renter was ultimately liable for that incident. But had I been found liable, they could have tried to take everything that I own personally, which they couldn't, because I had an LLC that was protecting me. It was protecting my personal assets. So, and ultimately too, one thing to note is that sometimes when people see LLC, they automatically they step back a little bit and they say, "Wow, okay, well let me get my ducks in a row basically before I sue this person." So sometimes setting up these LLCs actually prevents the lawsuit. Prevention is always better than cure. So for me, I would much rather protect what I have first, risk myself from doing business. So that is something to keep in mind, is that you do want to make sure you protect yourself. Shout out to Tone. Much love to you too, brother. So that's really what I wanted to cover today, is really protecting yourself from an entity standpoint, taking your business serious. It doesn't matter if you're that lemonade shop, that candy store, that hair salon, whatever it is, set yourself up for success. Please do it. It is very important, especially in this lawsuit-friendly world that we live in today. People do sue and people will sue. The average business owner has a 50% chance of getting sued. And you imagine, 50% chance. Why would you not want to protect yourself? And people think, oh yeah, I'm just running a small shop. I'm just running a small thing. Well, that small thing can land into something big. It's the smallest things in life that make the biggest difference. And you'll be surprised how low cost some of these things are. And some of these things don't cost a whole lot of money. They just require you to commit to it ultimately. So for me, I'm like, you've really got to set yourself up for success as it relates to business. Business is something, it's a marathon and not a sprint. So you're not in it for just a few months or a year. Hopefully you're not setting up a business where you put time and energy just for you to run it for a few months. This is something that's lifetime, right? The Badu Tax Services has been around since 2016. God forbid, by the time I pass away, I'm also going to pass this business down to my beneficiaries, whether it's kids, whoever it is that comes after me. So this business will live on for a very, very long time. So ultimately, you have to really treat yourself like a business. If you want to be a billionaire, or even a millionaire, treat yourself like a millionaire. Do things that millionaires do. You know millionaires protect their personal assets. Right? It goes without question. You know billionaires, I mean, they're super protected. They're like the bulletproof vest. I mean, they're more than bulletproof vests. Matter of fact, you can shoot them 1,000 times and they won't die. That's the type of protection that they have. Now, you don't need that type of protection now, but you do need to protect yourself by having an LLC or an INC in place before you start your business, before you do business with anybody. If you need help, please feel free to reach out to me. Phone number is 773-679-7198. Once again, 773-679-7198. You can check out the website at jeffbadu.com. We'll be more than happy to help you guys out with anything you need. But ultimately, it's very important to protect yourself. It's protect yourself at a minimum with an LLC. You will have insurance and all that. Insurance will be required at some point anyway. But we're talking about asset protection, where you're protecting your personal assets, yourself. You're protecting your business. So it's of the utmost importance. Before we launched Badu Tax Services, it was an LLC. It was formed on September 30th, 2016, before we did business with anybody. Now, I do understand that I was doing taxes for free, right? I was doing pro bono tax work for people on the side before then. But we're talking business here, a business that's here to make money, a business that's here to help people, a business that's here to be prosperous. We're not talking about some small mom and pop shop. We're talking about a multi-million-dollar, striving to be a multi-billion-dollar entity or company. That's the company that we're trying to be. So if you want to be that company, take yourself serious. Take your business serious. To set up an entity, you can try to do it on your own, which is never recommended. Or you can utilize my firm. So Badu Entity Formation LLC. We do help people form LLCs and INCs. Or you can go through an attorney. So this stuff is very important. I mean, don't brush this stuff off and say, oh yeah, I'm too small for this, or this is not for me, or anything like that. This is for everybody. This is for that little kid that has a lemonade stand. Because if that kid gets sued for having bad lemonade and somebody catches COVID-19 from that lemonade, they're coming after you. But if there's an LLC in place, they have to come after the LLC. And if the LLC owns nothing, guess what they get? Nothing. Right? That's how we have to protect ourselves. Anytime we buy a real estate building, we put it in an LLC. We don't do real estate even if it's small. We don't buy condos anymore. But even if it's a small condo, we don't put that condo in our personal name, because we understand the risk associated with real estate. It is a huge risk because it's a physical structure. Anybody can literally step on your real estate, fall, and sue you. Anybody. But if you have a land trust that's powered by an LLC, even if they sued you, I mean, you walk to court or have your attorney represent you. I mean, check. Well, you can't. The tenant can't win the lawsuit. Whoever sued you can't win a lawsuit, because you can't sue a land trust, and then you can't get what's outside of an LLC. So you're fully protected. And I hate bringing this up, but O.J. Simpson, this is the type of asset protection that he had, right? So ultimately, this is what we have to do. And thanks for the shout out, Kid. Glad you enjoyed the information. This is, of course, always recorded. So if you guys need to rewatch it, rewind, get some more insight, and take notes, as you should be doing now, this will be posted on the Facebook page as well as my Instagram page and on the YouTube channel, which goes on the website, jeffbadu.com. So we'll cut it short here today. Doesn't seem like we have any questions, but you can feel free to contact me. 773-679-7198. Once again, 773-679-7198. My name is Chef Badu, and I look forward to continuously delivering you all some content. Please stay home. Please stay safe. And let's make the second half of 2020 better than the first half. Because Lord knows, it's been a brutal 2020. I mean, we came into 2020 thinking it would be the best year on the planet. But man, it's been brutal. Me personally, I can only speak for myself. I've had the best year of my life in 2020. Right? Positive mindset, coaching, and just a solid foundation and a support system has gotten me very far in 2020. 2020 has been the best year of my entire life. I truly appreciate the year. I know a lot of people are going through it, but stay positive. Keep your head up. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. Stay safe, first and foremost. If you don't have to do something in person, please don't do it. Trust, it is not worth it. I have clients come to me, oh yeah, are you doing taxes in person? Absolutely not. We haven't seen a client since February. We're not doing anything in person right now. We're doing it virtually. Upload your documents to the portal. We'll get the return done for you. No questions asked. Very simple, easy. You don't have to go anywhere. Just got to take a few pictures, scan a few documents, and that's it. Right? We want to make your life easy, and we don't want to expose you to any COVID-19 madness that's going on in the world. Unfortunately, a lot of CPAs are passing away due to the COVID-19, which is sad. Right? So one thing, when you're running your business, when you're starting your business, please think of ways to go virtual if you can, because it is not worth it. Trust me, it is not worth your life. It is not worth your health. If you don't have to do it in person, please stay home and do it virtually. So thank you all once again. My name is Chef Badu, and I look forward to continuously delivering you all some content. Thank you.